my little sister, horse rider, animal rescuer.
And as soon as he opened this box up, she looks at me, and I kid you not, it was like she was smiling. So I called her Fluffy Smiler because she was fluffy and she was smiling. There's the farm down the road, 3-4 miles away, it's flooded, and I really want to help him. Can I use the spare stables? I have actually had in the past death threats, like actual death threats, because I wouldn't take somebody's cat in. But majority of the time, when you're called to a stray, there's usually a reason you're called to a stray.
£13,000 a month. Hi there, Aaron here from Just Horse Riders, and welcome to episode 15 of the Just Horse Riders podcast. This week I've got someone on extremely important for animal health and welfare. I've got my little sister Nicole on, who runs an animal sanctuary in Manchester called Changing Lives. In the episode, she takes us through some of the highs and the lows of running the sanctuary. And in the episode, I really hope it shows the importance of places like hers being open and continuing to be open and operate in the current climate. So without further ado, here's the episode, and I hope you all enjoy it. Nicole, my little sister, horse rider, animal rescuer.
Yes.
10 years younger than me. So obviously I have a lot of experience on you. But today we are here to share your experience of in the equestrian industry and the other industry that you've actually entered into. Mm-hmm. But let's first start off with, how did you get into horses?
Mainly when Mum moved to the farm, how many years ago? 18 years ago now? And that is the first experience I've ever had of a horse.
Yeah, and what obviously, like, similar to me, when we moved there, I didn't take too much of a not an interest, but as in, like, I didn't take to riding as much as you did. So what attracted you to actually think, oh, you see that 500 kilogram horse over there, that animal, I'm gonna get on top of that, and I'm gonna give it a go? Because you must have only been 7 or 8 at the time when we moved.
Yeah, 7, I think it was. Yeah, I mean, God, what? Who doesn't have that dream as a little girl to go riding on a pony, you know? I think it was more of a choice than a thrown into it. I was always one of them that wanted to ride all the big ones, but I was never allowed because I was probably 3 foot tall. But, you know, it was one of them things. I had a love for animals. I always had a love for animals, but before we moved to the farm, as you know, we had none. We didn't even have a dog. I wanted a dog. But, you know, it's something different about horses. Like, it's more of a therapy as well. And I think being the child that I was quite an energetic child. I wasn't particularly good in school. And when I got home, all I wanted to do was play with the ponies.
Yeah. Oh, I totally understand that. Mum was, when she was on here, Sharon was on here last time, and she was telling us about all the stories about how similar children in situations like, you know, with you, like they weren't too good at school, or they weren't fitting in too well in the mainstream sort of school system, and they've come to the riding school now, which is now a college and an alternative provision, and a flourishing. So do you think that it was something like you had something similar that wasn't sort of not diagnosed or anything at the time? I'm not saying, but like there was no sort of route for you back then.
Yeah.
So if there was something like there is at the riding school now, do you think you'd be in that rather than in the regular school?
101%. So I left school when I was just 12 to go on this, what they called at the time, flexi schooling. So I was meant to go in for maths and English 2 or 3 times a week, but then there was more classes of maths and English, so I was missing out on classes. So they'd be saying to me, well, why have you not got your homework? I'm like, well, I never got it because I wasn't in, you know. Well, you should be in. Well, no, that's not how this works. And it got to a point where it's kind of, I wasn't doing the classes I was supposed to, so how was I meant to know the knowledge to take on the test? So it was pointless. So I did that for maybe 2 months, then got taken out of school completely and started being educated with the horses. And at the age of 16, I was the most qualified on the place because I'd managed to get all my qualifications done early because I'd done that instead of going to school. You know, I was teaching from 16, and Not to blow my own horn, but I was quite crested.
You were. Yeah, I remember even when I was working I was mum's gopher, as she said. It was always when I used to come back from uni or whatever it was, you were always the one, like, they used to write the names down of the instructors, do you remember, in the diary? And it was always Nicole.
I don't know why, I was horrible.
I think that's what it is. I think people need a push sometimes. I mean, don't get me wrong, the riding instructors that we had there were still as popular and whatnot. Don't take that away. But yeah, no, for some reason, because you were horrible to him, maybe that's why they wanted someone a bit tough.
Yeah, exactly. I think most people did back then, but if I was teaching now, I think everybody would be like, no, I'm not having her again, she's too strict.
No, I can understand that. So coming out of the regular education route and then going into the horses and the educational side of it there is really, really shaped your life. Yeah. Hasn't it really? Obviously there's quite a lot to get through, but so you come out of school, you get into the horses. Tell us about, obviously you were riding the horse riding school horses, weren't you? Mm-hmm. What was it like when you've got your first horse, your own horse?
My first horse. I can remember it. I was 7 years old. And I had this crazy Lithuanian sports horse that was 4-year-old and I was 7 and it was about 15 too. And I barely came up to its knees. I got on it, fell straight off it, never wanted to get back on it again. But then I got more experienced. That horse then wasn't for me.
bit too much. Yeah.
Looking back at it now, it was great fun. And then I got Rosie. She was my absolute heart horse completely, but I got her as a youngster, schooled her, trained her, got her to the push button pony that she was, and then I outgrew her and I wanted to go competing, show jumping, and I wanted to do the bigger heights, and she wouldn't make the heights. So it was kind of, I need a bigger horse and something that could jump bigger. So that's when we went and bought Kelly. Which I know.
Yeah, Kelly's now here and is also due to be a mummy as well next year. Yeah. So she's so obviously you grew up from, like you said, 7 years old from having your own pony. Mm-hmm. What sort of lessons or personality did it teach you or give you? Having your own horse, giving you that responsibilities. What did it teach you? Did it shape you in a way that, looking back on it now, you think, oh yeah, well, if I didn't have the horses, I wouldn't be like this way. How has it shaped you as a person, having horses?
I think the first thing that springs to mind is definitely independence, 100% independence, and dedication. You've got to be dedicated to it. Independence-wise, there was always people about on the yard. There was always the liveries. There was always the riding school staff. There was always the clients. But when you've got your own horse, as horrible as it is, but other people aren't usually very supportive. So you do have to kind of make it on your own type of thing. Especially if you want to go out competing, you've got to go the night before, bath it, plait it up, dry it, rug it, bed it down for the night. Nobody else ain't doing that for you unless you're paying somebody to do it. And when you're 7, you don't have that. But definitely dedication, because it is the early mornings, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning get-ups, putting your jumpers on with your pyjama pants over the top so they don't get dirty.
A quick tip there.
Yeah, pyjama pants are the win, especially Primark ones. And then, going down, mucking out before you go, getting all the poop stains off, tacking up, either hacking or loading the box up, and then getting there. And then you go there, you do your show for literally 2 minutes. 2 minutes. You pack up and you go home and do the same again. So it is, you've got to be dedicated to it. And I definitely was up until I was probably about 19.
Yeah. And then what happened?
Then life happened. I think, I wanted to go and buy my own house. I wanted to go and get the nice car and start, and, I wanted to set up, and really it started setting up the business when I was about 20. And it just kind of, I think because I've been in it so long and I've done the wet nights and I've done, staying up all night when your pony's colicking and all that. And I think because I wanted to change my direction, that's when my dedication started dropping off.
Before we go into like what the business the charity that you run now, a story from you that always sticks in my head is when there was those really bad floods.
Oh yeah. Oh god.
Was it at which riding school was it at?
It was Meadowgate Farm.
Oh right. Yeah. So we'll tell everyone the story what happened with that.
Yeah. Well, how long ago now? 3 years ago?
I think longer than that. It was
COVID.
Yeah.
So it was COVID, so 4 years ago. Yeah. And basically in Manchester we had the worst flooding that we'd seen in over 40 years. Like, it was horrendous. Like, all the rivers were bursting, and there's quite a few rivers and dikes and everything else around where we are. And basically one of these other farm, it completely flooded, like up to the ponies' bellies. It was horrendous. There was pigs, there was beehives, there was ponies, there was goats that all needed rescuing. And basically I was just scrolling through Facebook, and I lived in Warrington at the time, and saw one of the posts, and this lady that I knew had 2 ponies under the garage, the petrol station, trying to just keep the ponies dry because the place had flooded. She had nowhere to take them. She was just stood under the petrol station with these 2 ponies. So I'm like, oh God, I feel guilty. They've literally got nowhere to go. She's going to have to stand there all night and hold them. What are they going to eat? Where they're going to drink from, because they couldn't stay. It was horrendous. They couldn't stay where they were. So I rang Mum, said, Mum, there's the farm down the road, 3-4 miles away. It's flooded, and I really want to help him. Can I use the spare stables? Oh, I don't know, because, we've got all the riding school to look after. And it was kind of, all right, go on then. So I was like, okay, great. So it's snowing, it's sleeting. Driving down 10 miles to Carrington again. And we get there, so all the stables are empty completely. I think there was about 14 stables to do. I'm ringing around all the staff. Can anybody come and help me? Because a few of them live far away, so they couldn't. But the ones that were local came and helped. And we just literally started chucking straw, shavings, water, haylage in the stables, just literally chucking it in and just hoping that it was good enough just to get these ponies here. And then I put on a plea on Facebook, can anybody help with transport? Because, it wasn't close. It was taking them about an hour to walk it on foot. So I was pleading for boxes to see if anybody can come and help. And there was loads of people from the public just coming down, donating their time, the money, the fuel, to bring these ponies to us. And then they started arriving. Now, we only had 14 stables, and I think there was about 20 ponies. So we had to put 2.
No wonder Mum was panicking. Yeah.
I said to Mum there was only 9. There wasn't. So we started putting the smaller ponies, 2 of them in together into each stable. Luckily, we had quite big boxes because we had mare and foal boxes, yeah. So we could put 2 in each stable, and we managed to squeeze them in. And then all the people that they couldn't be thankful enough, they're all private pony owners from livery yards, and they all put to our fundraiser for the rescue, and they nearly raised about £1,000 in return for doing it. And we said to them there was no charge at all, but they still did that off their own back, which was absolutely wonderful.
So again, and the charity is a main topic that I really want to get into, but I want everybody to understand sort of like what your mentality is in regards to the animals. And when you've just said that story, then I think a lot of people would have seen that and sort of carried on scrolling.
Yeah.
I think you've got a real affinity towards animals, which clearly you do. And that's one of the stories. And I think being in the horse world, I mean, I've heard some awful stories about the mistreatment of horses, especially.
Yeah.
But then, obviously, I think going beyond that, cats, dogs, even rats as well that you've done, you then have gone, as you said, in a different sort of route, and have now run a successful charity animal rescue for how long now?
Nearly 4 years in September.
4 years now. So yeah, let's go for it. So let's hear about it. So what is it the charity does, and how does it do it?
Yeah, so it's called Changing Lives at Carrington, because we literally change lives. So we rescue and rehome small animals, so cats, rabbits, guinea pigs, rats, hamsters, anything smaller than a cat, basically. So we take them in either private rehomes or strays or ferals and stuff like that. We'll give them the basic veterinary care, so neutering, microchip, flea worm, sometimes vaccinations, and say if they have extra medical needs, like, I don't know, one needs a dental, we'll get that done. Anything they need, basically, they get. We've had so many neglect cases. I mean, I went on one last night and it was horrendous. Like, the stuff that I see of the neglect that happens to animals. And all right, yes, it's a cat. People say, oh, it's just a cat. But to someone, that is their life.
What happened with this one, the most recent one?
So I went round to this house, and it was a known stray cat, scanned him for a microchip, and it was nothing, but he was a long-haired cat. So obviously with long hairs, it can get matted quite easily. So we got the cat in, scanned him for a chip, no chip, put him on Facebook, advertised him. No one in the area knew whose he was. He was just the known stray, unneutered as well. So, and then when we really looked over him, his claws were so long, like they were curling back on each other. His mats was physically so tight to his skin, it was pulling his skin and creating like pressure sores. So we literally had to shave this cat. Like, it's awful to do it, but there was no other way around it. And he also wasn't the most friendliest, so we had to put him under sedation to take his manhood off, chip him, and obviously cut these mats off. But at some point, that cat would have been owned. And it's like, well, how can somebody just leave them like that? Unneutered tomcats, they will go out scrapping to fight over females, and they can get all types of diseases, which can be life-threatening if not managed right. So it's horrible to think that somebody could do that to an animal, whether it be a cat or a rat or a dog or a horse or whatever. I can't comprehend why they'd be like that.
So in a lot of the cases where you find these strays, have they been pre-owned? A lot of the time, they're not just wild cats.
Some of them, yes. Some of them I have found the owners for, which, sometimes I found one the other day that was in Bolton, but it was actually, its owner was in Timberley. Like,
just for how far away is it?
Probably about 25 miles.
Yeah, so quite a significant.
Yeah, and cats can roam. Usually, they can go that far. Not really heard of by walking, but they can jump off in vans and stuff like that. So I have rehomed quite a few. There was one a few years ago, I think about 2 or 3 years ago, that was missing for 9 years, and it was just by a care home. And they said, they've been feeding this cat for years, and they think that it's owned. It's so friendly. So I went, right, bring it in, let's scan it. Scanned it, bang, microchip. Contacted the people on the microchip, and she was just crying her eyes out. I said, well, do you still want this cat? Like, obviously, it's been 9 years. You might have other animals now. She went, no, I'm coming to get him. I've missed him so much. And that was just because when she moved, he didn't come home. So she just left him. But then, obviously, we found him, and she came and picked him up. So there is instances like that, but majority of the time when you're called to a stray, there's usually a reason you're called to a stray. There's either, they look dishevelled, they don't look in a good state, they're skinny, they're matted.
Is there any? I'm sure you've got loads of stories and about that, but is there any ones that stick out in your head in particular?
Oh, yeah. I had this one black and white male, and he was clearly older. He must have been about 16, and I called him Daniel. And he was just so cute. He had barely any fur left. He was drooling out of his mouth. He couldn't eat. He clearly had a fractured jaw at some point, and it hadn't healed right. So his jaw was just constantly open. And he came in, and he was just the friendliest thing. Oh, it was so friendly. He was rubbing on you, giving you a good boops with his head.
What's a boop?
A boop, it's like a boop.
A boop. What with his nose?
With his nose. He gives the best boops. Yeah. And he was so poorly. And I took him to the vets as soon as we got him in. And we opened his mouth. And in this corner, like the junction here, it was just rotted. Like it stank, and there was just a massive big hole in it, and there was maggots in it.
Really?
Oh God, it was disgusting. It was grim. So we got it scraped out. He had antibiotics. And then I wanted a full blood panel done on him because I was panicking that he could have had one of these diseases that are passed from unneutered toms. So you've got like FIV, FELV, FIP.
When you say toms, what's a toms?
A tom is a unneutered male.
A tomcat?
Yeah, tomcat. Yeah.
It's not some bloke down there.
Not
Tom down the road.
Not Tom down the road. Yeah, so I got his blood panel done. Now it came back and he had both FIV and FELV. FIV is like HIV, like in humans, but it's not quite the same. So it's more of like an immune problem, like a disease. Now, not curable, is treatable. So you can prolong it with medication and stuff like that. FELV is like leukemia, but it's not like you'd think it in people. So it's not cancer. It's, again, another disease spread by fighting saliva into, joints and stuff. Now he had both of them. And usually both are treatable, not curable. But he had a fractured jaw that he couldn't eat from. He was constantly salivating because he couldn't shut his jaw. He was super skinny. He had no fur left on him, and he was about 16, 17. Now, when you think of something like this, all you want to do is just help, and you want to throw money at them and get them all the care they need. But realistically, what quality of life has he got being 16 or 17? So I have to take into account the quality of life of the animal. Who's going to take on a cat like that? Because the medication's expensive. He can't stay in the rescue because that's not fair. I believe that every cat should have a loving home and a couch to sit on and feet to curl up to, So we did make the call on euthanasia for him. But it gets to you when they're so sweet and all they've ever known is neglect, but they're still so trusting of humans. How? Why would they be like that? So yeah, it was a sad day. He was only in the rescue 4 days. We spent over £700 on everything initially just to see what was wrong, and then he got euthanized anyway. So not only is it really upsetting for the cat, at least we could put him out of his misery, and so he wasn't in any pain anymore. And then vice versa, the rescues then also lost £700 that we could have spent on something else if that one person just looked after that cat. It's always the rescues picking up the pieces. It's never...
The sort of responsibility ends with you. I mean, if you got... Just on that, I mean, again, I've heard stories similar, some, awful story. Is there any sort of idea or any change that could be implemented, even maybe at government level, to either stop or reduce the amount of cases where animals, not just cats but all animals, are just left to fend for themselves? Yeah,
I mean, recently, I think it was the 10th of June, the new law came in saying that if your cat's not microchipped, you could get a £500 fine. But realistically, how's that going to be manned? Who's doing it? There's no information on who's actually enforcing it. From what I've gathered, you have to go to your council about it. Who's actually going to do that? What benefit is it to the rescuers to do that? And then are you going to find the owners for it? Are they actually going to claim it? Because if they do, they've got a £500 fine. So it's making it worse for rescues. Although, yes, very good incentive, get your cat's microchip. If you lose it, somebody can scan it and you get your cat back, fully for it. But realistically, it's probably going to only make rescues more full because people don't want the £500 fine.
Sort of a counterproductive sort of policy or idea that they've got in it. Yeah,
it's stuff like that. It's and there's no law saying that you have to neuter your animals. There's laws obviously against selling animals, but people still do. You've got Gumtree, Facebook. I always see them, kitten for sale, 20 quid. Great.
£20 for a kitten?
20 quid, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. £20, but they won't be chipped, they won't be vaccinated, they won't be neutered, they won't be flead and worm. So you're getting a cat that's probably going to cost you over £300 in getting all that vet care done, when I get it done for £165, so nearly half. Wow. It's stupid, but people do it because they see £20 instead of £165.
Just on so they're that readily available and I say cheap, but they are like that's really cheap. So like during COVID, I know like a few of my friends, they got like dogs and cats and stuff like. Did you see any sort of increase in the amount of pets that were coming to you because people got them in COVID, and after COVID, reality and life kicks back in, and they don't have the time or the finances for the animals anymore?
Yeah, 100%. So through COVID, obviously, like you say, people were getting their animals. The vets were most vets were stopping neuterings and spayings because it wasn't classed as essential at the time. To me, it was essential because we may not have had the problem that we now have. So because they weren't getting them neutered, people were letting the cats out. They'd go and get pregnant, they'd come back, they'd have usually on average between 4 and 7 kittens a litter. If you've got 4 and 7 kittens a litter, them 4 to 7 kittens are then going to have more 4 to 7 kittens, and then they're going to have more, and it creates thousands within the space of a year because they can get pregnant from 4 months old. So it was a massive problem, and people weren't able to find rescues because rescues weren't allowed to rehome. So there was nowhere for them to go because they couldn't.
Why weren't they allowed to rehome?
Wasn't essential. Because you've got
during COVID, they weren't allowed to do it.
Yeah. Because you've got people coming to the rescue to view the animals. You weren't allowed to, were you? Because
then what happened?
We had to keep them all of them. We had, I think through COVID we probably had about 60 of them for a good year. And as soon as COVID hit, yes, they did all go, which was great. But then we also had the influx of the people that were going back to work and stuff like that. And then we had them coming in. Then we had all the babies coming in. They say there's a kitten season, which is now usually around March time to around September time, but it's not. It's all year round now. It never stops. But now I think compared to COVID is definitely worse. 100% worse.
Why? Why do you think that is?
I think because people can't afford the neutrins. The prices of them have rocketed. I used to pay £80 for a spay. Now I'm paying £105. So it's gone up significantly, and that's with discount.
What is a spay for those people that don't know?
Yeah, so spaying is tying the lady bits, tying the tubes on a lady, and a neutering is for a boy cat. So
they can't reproduce.
Yeah, they can't reproduce. Yeah, but I think people can't afford the veterinary care. Cats Protection are a massive charity, and they used to provide vouchers for people that were on benefits or earned under a certain amount for £10 for neutering and chipping.
Wow.
So it's less than a pack of cigarettes nowadays. But they've just stopped it. So they've stopped that whole scheme.
Do you know why? Can't afford it.
Don't know. No idea. I don't think anybody knows. But they've stopped that scheme. So now the people that haven't got a lot of money that want to get the cats neutered now can't because they can't afford £100. They could afford a tenner maybe, but not 100. Most vets don't do payment plans. And I think also, as horrible as it sounds, but the cost of feeding them is pulling on people. You get a pack of 12 sachets and they're nearly £5.
So when you had, how many sachets would a cat go through a day?
Depending, varies. Usually 2 or 3.
2 or 3 a day.
Yeah. Plus biscuits.
And then you had 60 cats at your peak.
We had 29 kittens last week, and I worked it out. If you do the kittens usually get 4 or 5 because they're small.
Let's do it. What's the calculations?
Yeah, I did do it the other day, but my brain's not working. So 29. This is just the kittens. Times, call it 3.
Times 3.
Times 7. Well, it's 7 days a week.
So that's 609.
609 pouches just for the cats.
609 pouches? Yeah. And how much is a pouch?
Well, you get a pouch of 12 for £5.
So it's 609. So it's 12 divided by 5. It's 5 divided by 12. So it's 41p. So it's 609 times 0.
Yeah.
So you had to spend £250 a week.
That's just for the kittens.
Just to feed them.
Yeah. That's just for the kittens. That's not even the adults. So if I've got an average of 50 animals, you're talking £600 a week for food. But luckily, I have a lot of, kind donators that will bring us food. So maybe food that their cats don't eat, or I'll put my Amazon wish list out there and people will purchase us food. So majority of the time, it's great because we get the donations. But when people don't, we've seen it a lot recently that the money has been dropping off for people. So we're not getting as many donations. So then I am having to buy it. And it, just for food, £600.
I suppose it's worked. Two things against you. One, all the price has gone up of everything. Mm-hmm. And two, the donations have probably dropped because of obviously the cost of living and crisis that we're going through at the moment. Mm-hmm. So you literally have every time you come up against a brick wall, and in this case 2 brick walls. But so how do you keep going? Like what is you keep getting these back? Do you try and invent different ways to raise money? Do you have different ideas in the future of how you can keep the charity going, keep helping these animals?
Yeah. So not this May just gone, but May 23, I applied for charity status. Now there's 3 people on the charity commission board for the whole of the UK.
Only 3 people.
Only 3 people. So,
is that just animal charities, or is that just charities? Just charities in general.
So we're now a year and 2 months into our process, and we've still not got it. But it's not because we've done anything wrong. We've not provided the wrong, information. It's just the waiting list. So once we get that, we can start applying for gift aid. We can start applying for bigger grants, National Lottery and Sport Aid and Sport England, and stuff like that. And we can apply for these grants. And we can apply for big ones. There's some grants out there that are 250,000. Like, we could maybe go and buy a new premises. Let's expand.
So you can help even more.
I've got fundraisers going on. So I've got one in July. I've just done a show jumping competition last weekend, which raised £500. But that £500 wouldn't even cost the food for a week.
Yeah, it's gone. I mean, £500 is a lot of money, but yeah, with that.
So we've done like music nights and stuff, and they are really successful. So they have raised us. I think the last one we did was just over £2,000. That didn't even cover my vet bills for that month. So although yes, it was a huge chunk, and it sounds like a lot, in the rescue, it's not. It's pennies, and it's sad that that I have to look at £2,000 as pennies. But I've got a summer fete going on in July. I'm hoping it's going to be the biggest event that we're ever going to do. Or for now. We've got pony rides, we've got bouncy castles, we've got stalls, we've got dog show, we've got dog agility, we'll have coffee vans, pizza stalls, dance lessons. Like, it's going to be massive. So I'm hoping a lot of people will come to that. Not that I'm advertising it or nothing. But it is just constant ways, because I can't, I had, as daft as it sounded, I did have a mental breakdown last week on social media, which probably a lot of people saw. Looking back at it now, it's probably been a bit dramatic. But I broke down, and when you're getting people saying to you all this negative stuff, and which you do, I have actually had in the past death threats, like actual death threats, because I wouldn't take somebody's cat in. I'm not even lying.
And okay, well, first of all, let's unpack that. So this person started giving you death threat. Why couldn't you take the cat in?
Because we were full.
Because you were full. Because literally up to the ring, and then this person started going.
Yeah, they're going absolutely sick, and I think I was only 21 at the time, so I took it quite to heart. And it got me for a few weeks. I was a bit like, why would somebody do that just because I said no? And then, for the next one, I'm thinking, well, what about if that happens again? What about if somebody actually does turn up on my door because I wouldn't take their cat? And it is scary, and you do get quite a bit of negativity from it, no matter how hard you try. It always seems that you can't do enough.
You can't please everybody.
Yeah, you can't please everybody, and I've learned that quite quickly. But it gets to you, and I've got a young child now, and I've got to juggle that and work at the same time, because if I don't do that, then it's just going to fail.
Well, I mean, yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I know you've talked about the negatives there, and I know you told us about the awful story about Daniel, which is extremely sad. However, I'm sure there is some amazing, heartfelt stories that you've got with the amount of people that help you and the amount of animals that you rehome. So let's start off with the people. Like, if I said to you, okay, tell me a story about someone who really surprised you and just really added to the rescue. You don't have to name drop if you don't want to, but
there's been quite a few.
Let's go through them.
Yeah.
Tell us.
I mean, the people, obviously, my biggest supporter is actually going to be a trustee for when we get this charity status. And he literally messaged me one day when we were getting Tula, the dog.
Tula, yeah. And also, it was this big Alsatian. Where was she from?
Macedonia, I think it was. Yeah. So we were getting this dog, and we were trying to raise funds to bring her over on the bus, on the little happy bus. And he messaged me saying, do you need any dog food for this dog? I went, yes, please. We need, we'll take anything at this point. We didn't know what state she was coming in, but we know she got thrown out of a car and she had leash, didn't she? So she had this, blood disease, but it wasn't transferable to any of the dogs or anything. And anyway, I went, yes, please. He went, all right, I'll see what I can do. So I left it. She came. Never heard of this guy, so I was like, oh, whatever, it's just a messer. Leave it. Anyway, so me and one of the girls off the farm, we stayed up till 4:00 in the morning waiting for this dog to turn up, because obviously we had to be the last drop from Southampton, didn't we? They said they were going to be there at 12. No, 4:00 they turned up. So we're waiting, sat on the benches outside the cafe with our blankets on, because it was like November. Freezing with our little hot chocolates, watching the movie on the iPad. And then she turned up, and then got her out, put her where she needed to be, fed her, and then went to bed. But anyway, a couple of days later, this guy turned up in a van. I went, you all right, mate? And he was like, yeah, I brought you this food. He opened the van, and the whole thing was full of food. Treats, food, toys, everything that you could need for a dog. Obviously, we had some to start her off with.
Did you ask if he'd stolen it?
Imagine. Where did you get this from?
From a few days where you got hold of it. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, so I was like, oh my God, this is amazing, and everything else. So that was kind of it. I was like, I couldn't thank him enough. And then I never heard of him again until a couple of months later. So he messaged me saying, we've got this festival going on. I want you to come down and have a stall. It was my first ever one. I hadn't got a foggy. So I turned up with my buckets that had paper on the front saying Change Your Lives Animal Rescue, because I didn't know what to do. No. I just turned up with stuck on paper with sellotape. And I turned up and I set out this stall. I literally just had the buckets. I had no business cards. I had no flyers. I had no banners. Nobody knew who we were. But randomers were coming up to me saying, do you want me to go around with a bucket? I was like, yeah, great. So loads of people going around with buckets at this event. And from the cash that we got, we managed to raise, I think it was about £300. And I was like, buzzing. This was great. I was having a great time with it. And it was a good day as well, nice and sunny. And then anyway, I got a message about 2 days later saying, hi, Nicole, I need to come down and see you. I went, oh, is everything all right? He went, yeah, I'm just coming.
From the same guy?
From the same guy. Yeah. So I said, all right, okay, well, yeah, I'm free on Saturday 6:00 or whatever it was. And he came down and he says, I've got something for you. I went, what is it? And he went, like that, with a piece of paper. And I looked at it and it was like £950 check. And I was like, I cried. I was like, because this was my first big donation. Yeah. This is when we first started up. I cried. I couldn't stop crying, and I couldn't stop thanking him. And I said, where the hell has this come from? He said, we did that festival for you guys. And I went, wow, how didn't I know about this? So all the profits that they made from the tickets came straight to us. And I didn't even have a foggy about it, And then since then, it's just gone strength for strength. Now, every year he plans at least 2 fundraisers for us that raise at least 2 or 3 grand each. We've got another one. He's helping me with this one in July. He came to the one last week, and he's got one that hopefully at Christmas time that he's starting to plan for me and all this. And you know what? I'm not going to say how old he is, but he's an elderly gentleman. Retired, well, semi-retired. And he literally lives off the fact that he can help others. And that is so inspirational. As an elderly gentleman who's still physically fit, who still wants to help out. And it's just, when you think of older people, you think, oh, they're just going to be sat at home drinking their tea. And it's like, no, he's kept busy. He's kept doing stuff for others. And that's how he's, still going. And I love it. And yeah, that's my biggest motivation is Tim.
Well, I'm sure I think I know who it is as well, but I'm sure if he's watching, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I love you.
I listened to quite a lot of podcasts as well, and funnily enough, there was a gentleman on Stephen Bartlett's podcast today called Simon Sinek, and he talked about one of the biggest things for longevity, for living long, is having friends and being of service. Yeah. And it sounds like this guy is gonna live a long time, Yeah. So no, but that. Yeah, no, I bet, but I bet he's just one of many stories that you have of people who have a similar affinity to animals, who may not have the ability to help them how you do, but they'll come on board with you. I mean, I've seen a lot of the comments that you get on any Facebook post you put on, or any events that you do, and they are really, really heartwarming, and you should be really, really proud of what you've created. But that's the people side of it, of obviously coming to help you. But do you have any stories that stick out to you with any animals that you've had that is sort of like just melted you? Just like,
I think my cat. I mean, when you get them in, I mean, there's loads of them. There was one only just before Christmas, I think, this year, and she came in, and this guy rang me. He says, I found a stray cat. She's only young, but she sounds like she can't breathe. I'm like, oh, okay. I said, right, so it's possibly cat flu, because it, a bit like human flu, it can congest you and stuff like that. But bring her in and I'll have a look at her. So he brought her in this little box, and as soon as he opened this box up, she looks at me, and I kid you not, it was like she was smiling. Like, I can't even explain it. So I called her Fluffy Smiler because she was fluffy and she was smiling.
Well, it says what it does on the tin.
Exactly.
You're smiling and you're fluffy. Your name shall be Fluffy Smiler. Yes, very good.
So call the Fluffy Smiler.
Like, if that was me, it'd be like jiggling, jiggly fat man, jiggly baldy. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so I really wanted to take this cat home, like really wanted to, but I think I may have got divorced.
Yeah, you have a lot of animals.
Yeah, 2 cats and 2 dogs, but it's not enough.
So it's not like you sat there telling people they need to rehome these animals. It's like you really would house them all. But I think you're part. Yeah, I think Jake would leave you. I think and take the baby with him.
Yeah, probably. So anyway, got this cat to the vets because you could literally hear it. It was like she was like gasping for breath. So I took her to the vets, and basically they said it could be asthma. So I was like, oh right, okay. So we got an inhaler for her, a human ventilating inhaler.
You were joking. A cat had an inhaler.
Yep, and she had a nebulizer on as well.
You're joking. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I didn't even know that was possible.
Yeah, the horses have had it as well. We had one on the riding school that had it.
Didn't even know.
So she had this, and the vet said, right, if it doesn't get any better, then bring her back and we'll have another look at it. Anyway, so it didn't work. So it wasn't asthma. So at the point in this, so I had a woman come round for a viewing for all the animals, and she actually came in for one that was a different animal. Anyway, and I took her into the others just so I could show the kids the other animals. And took her in, and the kid just instantly went to this one cat. And I was like, don't look at that cat. I want it. So he's going, Mum, Mum, Mum. And he had autism. And he's going, Mum, 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 I need this cat. I need this cat. And he wouldn't leave it alone. There was just something that was clearly drawing him to this cat. Mum, Mum, Mum. So she went, right, okay, so we'll get 2 then.
Oh, she got 2 cats?
Yeah. So she took her home, and I said, right, so it could be this. She's still under investigations, but if you want to take her, and then we'll continue doing the investigations if you're happy to take her to the appointments. She said, yeah, that's fine. So took her back in because her breathing was no better. And it was found that she basically had an enclosed bit here. Can't remember what it was.
Throat, esophagus. Esophagus, is it? Yeah. In the throat, something in the throat.
Over. Yeah. So basically, she needed surgery on it to open it. So she did. She had the surgery by one of the very talented vets at Trafford Vets. And after that, absolutely fine. Sorted. Done. And now this cat, she keeps messaging me all the time.
The cat?
Yeah, the cat, yeah. She taps with her paws. No, she's actually messaging me at the moment. She really wants to help and do some more fundraising for me, which is great. Thank you. But she's still got her. She's happy as Larry, having a great time. But I really wanted that cat.
Yeah.
I should have took it.
How dare they? How dare they? How
dare they want to give another life to a cat?
So all these stories that you're telling us, the negatives and obviously the positives, which are absolutely amazing, have all essentially come from that 7-year-old little girl who came to the riding school, fell in love with the animals there, and now you're helping hundreds, if not thousands, of animals find a new home and be safe. Yep. And that I know there's probably lots of different routes to that, but one of the main routes to that was the horses.
Oh, 100%. If I hadn't got into the horses, there definitely wouldn't have been a rescue. 100%.
No, it's amazing. But yeah, obviously, I wanted to get you on because I think it's very interesting what you do and how you do it. But I also got you on because I'm hoping people watching this will have more of an understanding of what it takes to run a rescue. Mm-hmm. But I think one of the main things we've talked about and dipped our toe in is the costings of it. Mm-hmm. Now, we talked about the food, but you've talked about vet bills, you've talked about an operation for Fluffy Smile. Sorry. And
she's now called Echo. Makes me sad.
Echo. That's a cool name. How much do you need a month in order to keep running at the moment?
So, if you want everything,
we want people to understand what the costs are and what is the value that you need to be coming in to the bank account every month to make sure that you're paying to make sure that these animals are looked after.
We've obviously got the vet bills. They can be anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000 per month. You've got staff wages. There's 3 of us. One full-time, two full-time, one part-time. The rest of volunteers, I've got 55 volunteers.
Wow, 55 volunteers.
That's how much it takes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so we have 5 or 6 people on each shift, and there's 3 shifts in a day. We did used to have 3 people, but now I've buffed it up to 5 because of how in demand it is. So including, vet fees, staff fees, even down to stupid stuff like washing up liquid, bin bags, stuff like that you don't think of it, aprons, latex gloves, to keep everything sanitary and the correct PPE. You're looking at, rent, gas, electric, blah, blah, blah. Insurances, and even down to your credit card machines. Like, your card machines, they take a massive fee every time you do a payment. So silly stuff. And, if we need new equipment, like the new cat crates we've got, the rabbit hutches we've got.
How much is a cat crate?
For a double unit, I think it was $725. per one, and we've got 12 of them.
Wow.
So you can work out the maths on how much that was.
This is a massive outlay.
Yeah, so it's massive outlay, and I have to constantly keep improving it because things break, things go missing. We go walkies because they grow legs. So it is a constant. So on average, and it's going to probably shock you, but I need at least 12 to 13 grand a month. At least.
£13,000 a month.
Yeah. For everything, absolutely everything. That's covering all bases.
A month.
A month. That's not including food or litter.
Wow. I didn't realise it was. I genuinely didn't realise it was that much.
Yeah. About 13,000 per month.
Obviously, that'll change depending on. And I assume, like, if you have more cats, it may be more. If you have less cats, it may. But that's probably that is a lot of money. So, wow.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So people need to really understand the.
And this is why at 25 I've got grey hair. So.
Well, that is,
a diet.
Well, this is you're saying you need 55. You've got 55 people helping out.
Yeah.
And £13,000 a month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's no regular income. There's no government funding. There's nothing. It's purely off donations and the adoption fee. But the adoption fee pays for, with each cat that we get in that just has the basic care costs us £195. Our adoption fee is £165. So we're constantly at a loss. The only time that we make a profit is if the cat's already neutered. That's the only time. But we rarely get them in.
But then you say profit, it's like, that money's going straight back in.
Yeah, because, I don't know, for example, Derek needed a dental and that's £400.
Yeah. So Derek's a cat.
Yeah. I'm just creating a cat, but say Derek needed a dental, so that profit, that £30 or whatever it is that we've made off that cat will then go to that cat.
So it's constantly juggling.
Yeah. So it's never actually in profit.
So people need to really understand the scale of the size of this charity.
Yeah, and we're a small one.
I was going to say, and the size of other ones as well. God knows how much money they actually need to keep going. So the donations are just vital to keep you guys afloat and to keep the work that you do going. Mm-hmm. But I know you're my sister, and.
I know we look nothing alike. Yeah. I'm more beautiful.
But no, super proud of you of what you've achieved with it, and the fact that you are. It's like you've been meant for it. Like I don't know why, it just feels like you have been meant for it, and you are so good at it. And you really, really care with all the stories, even with the horses, with the flooding, all the cats that I know you stay up till God knows what time, 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, all the time you put in, all the effort you put in, all the stress that you take on your shoulders. It's a massive, massive task, and I think a lot of people don't realise it. But yeah, super proud of you. And if anybody's watching that does want to donate to the rescue, I will put the link. I'll put the link on the YouTube video and in the on the page that you're on now. But yeah, well done, and keep going, and hopefully we can have you back on in a few more months, or maybe even sooner, depending if you have any other new developments come through.
Oh, there is.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll keep them in the works. But yeah, thank you so much, and
thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. See you later. Bye.